You are listening to the FORSCOM Frontline, bringing you to our soldiers on the front lines of readiness.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the FORSCOM Frontline. I'm Jeannie, and I'm your host. Today, I am joined by soldiers from the 14th Brigade Engineer Battalion from the 7th Infantry Division who recently were deployed to Idaho to help combat wildfires in the Boise and Payette National Forest. And first off, we're going to talk to First Lieutenant Jordan Davis. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, awesome. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So first, just tell me a little bit about yourself, your MOS, where you're from, how long you've been in the Army, that kind of thing, just so we can get to know you a little bit.
So I originally enlisted in 2014 into air defense, and I was in air defense at Fort Sill, Oklahoma for 3.5 years. And my lieutenant was a West Point graduate, really helpful guy, and helped me get into West Point, where I commissioned from. And then I've been an engineer officer for 2 years now, 12 Alpha at JBLM.
So you are now commissioned and you went to West Point. Like I said, you look like you have a baby face. You look really.
Yeah, I do. Well, I did have a mustache when I was out in Idaho, but my wife made me shave it. So now I'm back to looking like I'm 21 again.
I don't like my husband having a beard either, but he's also a lot older now and there's a lot more gray in it. So, but I've never really liked the facial hair. So I'm with your wife on this one. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So where did you say you were originally from?
So I am from mostly Illinois in Rockford, but as a child, I did move around a bunch, which is what I think helped me in the military. But my dad was in professional sales. So I've lived in Michigan, California, Missouri, was born in Colorado. I've been all over the U.S.
Awesome. Is that kind of why the military appealed to you, having that option to move every couple of years?
I think so. I think the adventure aspect and going somewhere new was very attractive to me because that was my whole childhood, was just going new places and meeting new people. So, and that is one of the aspects I do still love about the Army is go travel places, meet new soldiers, learn about people, where they're from. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. I find that, kids who move around a lot, whether they be military families or, like you said, your dad was in sales, they are more apt to be acceptable of the lifestyle of a military family and moving around more and more. Mm-hmm. That's why I think you see more military kids join the military. So I think that's cool. Yeah, my daughter joined the Navy and my son is in college to be a pilot. So
oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Both awesome. Military brats. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about some wildfires. How does an engineer battalion get involved in fighting wildfires? Because you don't put the two and two together, right? It just seems so weird.
Well, in our engineer branch, there is actually people who are their whole mission is firefighting. So it's really hard to get into, but there are engineer firefighters. And historically, starting in 1987, engineer units and with assistance from other units have been assisting with wildfires whenever they get called up from a Title 10, typically Idaho or California, but asking for help, saying, hey, these wildfires are getting out of control. We need some more assistance from a federal organization. So they send active duty soldiers.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And so was there a rhyme or reason to how 14th BEB got selected, or was you guys just the closest, or is there an order you guys kind of go in?
So there's more of an order. There's a list and a cycle to it. So kind of like any deployment overseas, there will be a unit on this list for a specific amount of time saying that, hey, for this year, during this month to this month, if there is assistance that is required for wildland firefighting, then this unit will be sent. So we were just next on the chopping block, and we're invited to come out and help. So
nice. And so when you guys, I know you got activated to go, and you guys go for, I think it's 30-day stints, correct? That's yes. The max. So when did you find out that you guys were going?
So when we originally got our brief in, I believe, the end of July, they said we'd have about an 8 to 5 day window where you would be notified, and then within those 8 to 5 days, you'd be sent out towards wherever you were headed. So we had an idea of when it would be. I know that a lot of people were saying that August, September was typically the most active part of
Yeah.
the year for fires. So, yeah, they let us know, I believe. I was actually on leave and I wasn't anticipating to go for myself. I wasn't even on the list. And then they let us know at the beginning of September. And yeah, I got a call while I was on leave. And they're like, hey man, like we got to put you on the list. You got to leave in a week and a half. So yeah, and then we were gone, I think September 16th. No,
Okay.
I'm sorry, August 16th.
August 16th. Okay. And
Mhm.
so with you guys knowing that you're on a list and there's this possibility that you could go, do you do training beforehand, or is it you just get training as soon as you're, notified that you'll be leaving?
It's a combination. So with that, I think it was about 8 days, about a week prior to leaving. In that time, they actually send people from the National Forest Service who come down and teach us the basics. So for people that actually become a wildland firefighter, they have prerequisites and courses they have to take. It's usually a few weeks long, but they condense it for us to last about a week. And it goes over things like how to use a fire shelter, how to use basic tools, what is a pump a Mark III pump that you can use out in the field, and how to identify certain trees, the different types of engines, all the basics. So we
Okay.
spent a week learning all the basics before we shipped out to Idaho, and then we did even more training and did hands-on stuff right when we got there.
Okay. Did you guys do any hands-on before you left, or was it like all just kind of classroom type stuff?
Mostly classroom, kind of doing that walk phase, just getting an introduction to everything. And then we did get to touch a few of the tools and look at the pump and the chainsaws. But most of the hands-on stuff was about like the first 3 days we were there was like, hey, we taught you the stuff, how to use the tools. Now here's how you actually use it out in the field.
So you didn't just like get there and start hosing down fires or digging ditches or
No,
anything
no.
like that. Okay. Well, I mean, that's good to know. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get some training and you're like on the ground. So you kind of
Mhm.
see what's in front of you and kind of the battle that you're going to go up against,
Mhm.
this raging fire. And, so that's really interesting. And
Mhm.
so I know you guys were in Boise with the Payette National Forest and stuff. Was there a specific section that you guys were assigned to, or were you guys like spread out? Like, how did it work once you got there? Because I mean, this thing was very encompassing. At one
Yeah,
point, it merged. And it just they dubbed it the lava fire. So
yeah.
that's why I was curious because they're always in different sections. So that's why I was curious. Like, were you in different sections or were you all in the same area? Because there was what, about 250 of you that went?
Yes,
Okay.
250. Um, so when we first started, it was called the West Mountain Fire Complex, which was a combination of four different fires, and they were located to literally all directions, the east, west, north, south. And something they say out there a lot, the firefighters harp on it constantly, is be flexible. More so than the Army, you'll have your brief in the morning on what you're going to do, and shoot, by the 2 hours later, the whole entire plan could change because the fire just does what it wants, is what they would say all the time. So it started as a West Mountain Fire Complex because it was four different fires. But as you had mentioned, the lava fire became a thing, which was a combination of a small fire, which was called lava, which weren't even working on because they thought it was negligible, and then the boulder fire, which was much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Those two combined, and then they're like, okay, well, we can't attack all these forces. How are we going to allocate our forces to be most efficient? So then we all got moved. I think it was the last week and a half, all got moved to working on the lava fire.
Oh wow! And so you said it just started out as like a baby fire that like nobody was
Yes.
like really concerned with, and then that just goes to show you how like uncontrollable nature is. And I mean, I
Mhm.
can't even imagine being there and fighting fires on the front line and having like things shift so much. How was that for you? Like, what was that experience like?
It was very humbling and put a lot of things into perspective, because we would spend many days prepping line, which consisted of just digging and cutting down trees and branches to prep an area where the fire wouldn't cross, essentially a fire line. And you do all this work, and then the one day when that lava fire, like I said, started so small, and then the conditions were just right when the fire started running, and we had to evacuate the area, and there was just, I swear, it almost looked like a nuke had went off. Like the clouds were so massive, the entire sky was orange, and from where we were in the safe zone, you could just watch the mountain just catching on fire, and it was it was a point where the firefighters told us, going back to that saying, the fire will do what it wants, and you kind of are just in react mode and trying to save as much as you can, and there's no stopping it on a day like that. So yeah, you definitely feel tiny. You're like, wow, this fire is just going to consume everything, and I just have to try to save what we can and help who we can. So.
Oh wow. So I'm still just kind of in awestruck about it. And what would you say? Because I know there's not a typical day because it's
Mhm.
ever changing. So I guess, what was the hardest part about being there, fighting the fires and things like that?
I think the hardest part was, um, the firefighters had a lot of sayings. Another one they said, the fire doesn't wait on anyone. So there were days where we would get attached to, they call them hot shots. So they're like the professional firefighters, kind of like the special forces of firefighters. They were really cool. And yeah, they would work. They grinded, and all the dudes were super fit. And we would start at like 9 in the morning, and we'd go all the way till like 1700, and we'd get a little 30-minute lunch break. And it was going up and down the lines, climbing up these hills, cutting down branches, prepping that line as fast as we could, so that um, in the event that the fire does move our way, that fire stops at that line. So you are in those days when you're in a race against the fire. Those definitely were the hardest days.
Okay, okay. And you seem like a very kind of positive, silver lining type of person. So I have to ask, because I know there had to be something. What was like the best or the coolest part about being out there?
The coolest part, so we weren't certified firefighters. We were the ones assisting the actual firefighters.
Hmm.
But in scenarios for our crew, there was one scenario when there was the end of the day. We're like, okay, we cleaned up this line. We had to go check for any hot spots. There was nothing. It was a pretty calm day. And then someone pointed like maybe, I don't know, 500 feet into the wood line behind us. There's like some smoke coming up. And then I knew it was bad because all the actual firefighters, like their eyes got all big, and they're like, whoa, that's a spot fire. We need to do something about that. And so in that moment, it was just, adrenaline rush, like, hey, directing people, grab the pump, put it into the stream, start running hose out there. And that we didn't actually, sadly, we didn't actually get to spray the fire, but we did get all the way next to it. And there's an awesome picture with our guys ready to spray the fire, and those hot shots that those special forces firefighters told you about. They rolled in and took over the work, but we got to watch them do their thing. And then there was helicopters coming in, dropping water buckets right over that fire, and it was a good probably 3/4 acre fire. It had consumed a whole area, logging area that was all dried up. But it was beyond where the fire line was, and some ash or some embers had crossing over and started that fire, something really small, and it had spread so fast. But yeah, that was definitely a highlight moment where that was the closest we got to actually like really fighting the fires with the firefighters. So.
That's amazing. That's absolutely
Mhm.
amazing. So I have to ask, would you do it again? Would you go back out? Like if you were called up, like would you like
Mhm.
volunteer or anything? Or I mean, would you just go and do it again?
I Yes, I would 100% do it again. I think there was definitely an inspiring part to it, seeing these guys, very similar military vibe. They're away from their families for a month at a time, and they're out there. It's a whole brotherhood of firefighters, and they're just getting dirty out there. And it was kind of hilarious. They take getting dirty as a like an award, like a prize, so like guys don't want to shower. That's respect. The dirtier you are, the more ash you got in your body. That means you're out there working really hard. And so, um, that brotherhood and that hard work mentality was amazing. I loved it. So, and I know that the guys loved it too. I think the days that we actually worked really hard and you feel like you earned your rest, you got back to your tent at like 2000, 2100, and you just passed down your cot. Those were the days that you were like, wow, like this is amazing. You know, you really felt like you were making a difference.
You're like, this was a good day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
I have the utmost respect for firefighters. My daughter's boyfriend is actually a firefighter, so I don't know how he does it, but much respect to firefighters. So, and you talk about your hot shots and you talk about the firefighters you work with. Was there anybody that kind of stood out to you that, you know, that you have the utmost respect for that you might want to give a shout out on here too?
Yeah, definitely. There were two guys. So my position, I was a crew OIC. So I had a crew of about 20 guys, sergeants and soldiers, and assigned to us was a crew boss. And I had three different crew bosses, and I want to shout out all three of them because they were amazing people. My first one, Jonathan, he was from Florida, firefighter from Florida, and he did heavy dozer stuff. And he was amazing, always sought out to teach everybody and very helpful. And then our second one, Shane McCracken, he worked with Vegas Valley, who was a veteran crew out there. And this veteran crew would go out and they're highly respected. And they weren't necessarily hot shots, but they were right under the hot shots and they could keep up with them and they could do all the chainsaw work, all the firefighting work. Shane was an incredible mentor, super helpful, taught me so much about fire. And then lastly, my third crew boss was AJ Police. AJ Police is an Alaskan smoke jumper, and that guy is amazing. I've never met someone so fit, so knowledgeable about fire, and so willing to help teach. Oh, and actually I got one more. This guy named
Okay. I mean, you're talking about like these guys bulldozing, you know, smoke jumpers, which are so cool, by the way. If anybody's ever read about them or seen any documentaries or anything, like I think that's like one of the coolest things ever. I'd never be able to do it, but I like firefighters are like here and then smoke jumpers are up here. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, but anyway, who else would you want to talk about?
Well, actually, so TJ was also an Alaskan jumper, and now he's been in fire for like, I think it was like 34 years. And
Wow.
He only spent 2.5 days with us because he was filling in for our task force leader. And in those 2.5 days he was with us, I probably learned more than my entire time there. This guy seized every opportunity to gather in the soldiers and make awesome metaphors about them turning wrenches and how they would, you know, use the fire line. They had a shaded fire break, told us the whole concept of a shaded fire break and region and the difference between fir trees and ponderosas and all this cool information that nobody asked him to teach us or do all this stuff, but he got the soldiers excited because he had such a passion for it, and it was amazing. I loved it.
Oh, gosh.
So
sounds like you had a really amazing experience for something that was so devastating in the Idaho area. Like it just, but you had, there was something positive that came out of that. And I absolutely love that. And so it just kind of a quick question, and even for our listeners, do you know how the fire originally started?
So usually the fire, and this is what they told me because I was wondering the same thing when I was there.
Okay.
After the fire is contained and they think, okay, it's completely cold, it's not, you know, going to go anywhere, they'll send fire investigators. Their whole purpose is to go and try to figure out what started the fire. And it could be anything from something they have a big fear about is lightning. And because lightning can start the fires, and especially the most dangerous is dry lightning when there's no rain, just, you know, lightning starting fires. And then also civilians or anybody that just accidentally starts a fire. Maybe they have a fire when they shouldn't be and embers catch something. But it could be numerous different things. But usually they're not too concerned about what started it. They just want to put it out.
Yeah. So ding, ding, ding. The answer is lightning. is what
Oh,
started
okay.
that fire originally. So I read a bunch of articles before I wanted to talk to you and some of your other soldiers that we're going to talk to later in this podcast. So yeah, I wanted to know a little bit more about it. So I was just curious, and the fact that you said lightning, like ding ding, there you go, that's the answer right there. So I have learned so much. Is there anything else you want to share about your experience, about how you guys came to be, fighting wildfires or anything like that with our audience? I would love to hear it if you have anything else. If not, we'll move on and I'll go and talk to some of your colleagues.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say is I know wildland firefighters, they talk to us a lot about how they need more people out there, and it is a great opportunity for veterans to get out there and earn a really good paycheck for some really good hard work. And I know there are a lot of unemployed veterans, so I'd highly suggest to any of the listeners who are looking for work that want to go out there and have a good sense of purpose and fulfilling opportunity. Yeah, go out for wildland firefighting. Look it up. Specifically, look up Vegas Valley if you really want a nice crew to be a part of, but there's tons of veterans crews. I mean, there were 3 or 4 different veteran crews out there that were working with us. So,
all right. Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lieutenant Davis, for joining me today. I've had an absolute blast talking to you, and so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This has been amazing. So.
Fantastic. And next up, we're going to talk to Staff Sergeant Russell and Specialist Souza and get a little bit more information about how, or I should say, their experience of fighting wildfires as a junior enlisted soldier with the 14th BEB. So stay tuned. We'll be right up with that. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to kind of get to know you guys a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your name, where you're originally from, what your MOS is, how long you've been in the Army, that kind of thing.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So I'm Staff Sergeant Russell. I grew up in a little town called Winchendon, Massachusetts. Joined the Army in 2014, so I've been in almost 10 years now.
Oh,
and
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm halfway there. I'm a 12 Bravo, and this is my second time at Fort Lewis, Washington, and yeah, that's about it.
How do you like Joint Base Lewis-McChord?
Love it. I absolutely love it here. I wish I can finish my career here, but you know how the Army is.
I do. My husband and I spent almost 10 years at JBLM and just moved back to the South about 2 years ago. So, yeah,
Nice.
totally. Yeah, I'm from North Carolina, though. So he retired. I moved back to North Carolina and really kind of focused on my career. So,
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
So, all right. Sorry. Specialist Souza.
Hi, I'm Specialist Souza. I was born in California, Tracy, California, Northern California. But I was raised all over the world because I'm in a military family. My dad's military as well. So I've had a good life so far. And I have about 2.5 years in the Army right now. I joined in December of 2021. So I don't have much, but I have a lot of experience. And so far in the 2.5 years I've been in the Army, I've been loving it. And JBLM is a really nice place to be. So this is my first ever duty station. It's really nice.
Right on. I mean, what's better than walking outside and seeing Mount Rainier? Just
yes,
she's just there. Especially in
Yeah.
the summer, in the winter. I don't know if you've been there through the winter yet. Once we get into the rainy season, which is gonna come up here in the next month or so, and then it's all misty and foggy, and you might see the Cascades, and then you might see Rainier. But the summer, it's absolutely gorgeous out there.
There's nothing like it.
It's
Nothing
beautiful
like
here.
it. I absolutely love it. So, but yeah, what did you go anywhere cool with your dad in the military? Growing up, did you live
Yes.
anywhere cool?
Yes, I've been to Germany, Italy, and many other countries while we're stationed over in those places for vacations. So it was really nice. I really loved it.
Awesome. We were in Italy for 3 years, so that is
Nice.
a dope assignment. So I absolutely agree with that. So, okay,
It really was.
so let's get into why I have you guys on here today. So first of all, you guys were fighting wildfires in Idaho,
Correct.
which is super cool and not something that you think the Army would be doing. So do you guys know why you were activated to go out to Idaho? Like about the fires themselves, like how they were started or any of that information? Were you given any of that information before you left to go out there?
So back in, I think it was around May, I want to say, we got the notice that we're going to be potentially fighting fires in the summer, just to be on call, right? And the PL level, it reached 5, and it wasn't even like 2 weeks after we got told that, hey, it's PL 5. We're pretty much going. We didn't really know we were going until about a few days before, and that's when we found out we were going to Idaho, because Idaho is, it was clearly the worst out of all the states on the West. So that's when we got the call, and yeah.
Absolutely. And for our audience who doesn't know, the wildfires started kind of in Boise, and then ultimately, like right after you guys left from being there, what they have now denounced or named the lava fire kind of ate everything else in the forest, and so that is kind of now the big fire that they were combating in Idaho. So just a little news lesson there for you. So what exactly was your role there? Because I know we have the actual firefighters, and you guys only get like a week of training, and then was there like specific things that you could and couldn't do while you were there?
Not sure if there was anything we couldn't do, but we just we lived there, and then we were tasked to do whatever fire that each strike team, we had different strike teams that we were assigned a different fire. And so every day we'd go to the fire that we were assigned and then do as we were tasked. So.
Okay. And what were some of those taskings like? Were you putting them out with water, or are you shoveling them? Like what kind of things did you do to help combat the fires?
So what we did in my own strike team, we did what they call indirect actions. And so that's basically digging line. Digging line basically means it's just digging up soil into a straight line in order to stop because fire doesn't burn dirt. And so we used hand line to further prevent fires and further prevent the burned areas to catch fire again and to spread over to the green side. And so that was one of the main things, most important thing that we kind of learned out there. We learned how to, when everything was burnt, there was still little fragments of embers and little fires that may kick up. And so we learned how to mop those, which basically means just either putting them out with water or just digging around dirt and trying to put it out that way.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Now, Staff Sergeant Russell, did you do something similar to that, or was your task force a little bit different?
It was about the same. We were kind of working in a pretty rugged terrain area, so it was kind of hard to get water. So without water, you kind of just use your tools, and you do a thing called mopping and gritting, where you walk a chain in, which is I think 66 feet from the burn line, and you're pretty much, it's a very, very slow and deliberate process of where you're walking on line and you're just kind of with your bare hand feeling for heat, because and I didn't know this either, there's embers underground that can just burn for I just forever. It just keeps going, and you have to physically dig it up and find them and find the heat, and then kind of just beat it, not beat it, but bury it and kind of move it around and kind of spread it out so it doesn't really have anything to grab onto, and continue the fire.
Okay, very cool. Now, do you guys feel like you made a difference in combating the wildfires? Like your mission out there helped contain to the certain location that you guys were in?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because when we first got there, I was actually kind of surprised at how little firefighters there were there already. And every day when we got our briefing in the morning, you could see the black line from the fire on the map, which means it's contained. You could see that little black line growing and growing and growing, and that just kind of reassured us, okay, we are doing something, we are making a difference, and we're helping these guys out, because there's not many of them.
That's
So
amazing. That's amazing.
yeah,
Now, how many soldiers total went to go help with the fires? Do you know?
I think it was,
About 250.
yeah, 250.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's a lot of bodies to help. And how many firefighters would you say? Because you said there wasn't that many there. If you had to guess, like how many were there on ground that you guys were assisting?
So our crew bosses, which we only had two of them, and then we worked with some crews from Oregon and California and Utah, and there was about 10 in each crew, 10 to 15 in each crew.
Wow.
So, and I only worked with like two or three different crews, so
So
not that
having
many.
so having an extra 250 bodies like really
Yeah,
made a difference. That's awesome.
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how long were you guys there for helping?
We were there for about 30 days.
About 30 days.
Mhm. Yeah.
Did they want you to stay longer, or was it just a set, you guys are going for 30 days and that was it?
Yeah, I think in the contract with NIFC, it's maximum 30 days. Um, but I assume they would want us there longer.
Oh,
I kind of wanted to stay
absolutely.
longer, but I was having fun, so
Oh, that's amazing. I like to hear that. So, you know, you say you're having fun, but what was the hardest part about being out there and combating fires?
I think the most difficult part was probably it's very a labor intensive job. And so we're sometimes it sucked. We're just kind of like, when is it going to be over? I want to go home already. But like for the most part, we were pretty motivated. We were pretty motivated to work and help the people in need over there. So that was our main motivation.
That's amazing. And I'm going to go back to say, you said this was like really cool. You were having fun. So what was the best part about it? Like,
for me, the best part was, kind of seeing the local population and how appreciative they were that we were there. I mean, you drove through town, you saw signs everywhere, and every time we go out in town, you see people come up to us and thank us. So really making a difference and saving people's like livelihood and their homes and everything they own is what really motivated me. Because I've never been in that situation before, and I can only imagine how scary and how stressful it could be. And just reassuring the locals there that, we're here to help and we're here to save your area. That's what really kept me going.
I just want to say thank you for joining me today and talking about your experience out in Idaho and combating wildfires as, soldiers in the U.S. Army. So thank you
Yeah, of
again for coming on and talking to me today.
course. It
Thank
was
you
a
so much.
pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And so, when requested by the National Interagency Fire Center, the NIFC, and approved by the Secretary of Defense, the DoD can provide unique firefighting assets. These diverse mission assets are prepared to respond quickly and effectively to protect lives, property, critical infrastructure, and natural and cultural resources. And that is what you guys have done for our country. So, again, thank you. And until next time, we'll see you on the front line.